Jake Stuart with the National Sports Media Association. Today, I'm joined by the 2021 North Dakota Sportscaster of the Year, Brian Shawn. Brian, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jake. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Brian, what brought you into the industry? What made you want to work in sports?
Well, growing up in the Twin Cities, I was a huge fan of the Twins and the Timberwolves and the Vikings. And at that time, the North Stars, back when I was growing up, as the hockey team. And with my dad, we just watched a lot of different sports on television, went to a lot of different games, and even watched a lot of the Minnesota Golden Gophers as I was growing up too. And as I was growing up, I would watch a lot of the guys that I would consider people that were the gold standard of the industry in Minneapolis, guys like Mark Rosen and Randy Shaver and Joe Schmidt, and a lot of those guys on television. And I was like, I want to do what they're doing someday. And as I continued to kind of grow up and figure out what part of this I wanted to do, even watching some of the others call games, I was like, wow, if I can do that, I would be so thrilled to have that opportunity to do college sports. And so, one thing has led to another. I'm very fortunate. I'm in the point in my life where I'm right now, where I get to do what I do.
Well, Brian, you've covered North Dakota State sports. You did basketball for I want to say 9-10 years, and now you're announcing for Midco Sports. I want to know, can you talk to our listeners a little bit about what it's like to cover a smaller market per se, with less professional teams, more riding on high school, colleges, etc.
Absolutely. I mean, you're exactly right too. In North Dakota, obviously, we don't have any professional teams. The teams that everybody gets super excited about here are the D1 universities, the University of North Dakota and North Dakota State University. And we've been very fortunate over the last 10, 12, 13, 14 years where I've had a chance to experience a lot of memorable moments and cover those programs pretty extensively and see a lot of cool moments, both with both universities and some things that they've experienced. And it even takes me back. I'm a University of North Dakota graduate. In my senior year of college, the University of North Dakota football team won a Division II national championship. It's the only national championship that program has won. And to see how both of the programs have gone from Division II to Division I in the last 2 decades has been really fun to experience that. And obviously for me, for a decade, I did a lot of North Dakota State athletics on television between football and basketball, and had a chance to call Carson Wentz's games and all of Trey Lance's games and a lot of other great players as well. So I'm very fortunate that way, that I've had an opportunity to see firsthand a lot of these colleges have a lot of memorable moments in all their athletics and activities.
Oh, Brian, this is your first award from the National Sports Media Association. What does it mean to you?
It means a lot. It's obviously one of those awards that's selected by your peers. There's a lot of very deserving and very honorable people in this profession in our state. I know we're not a big state. We're probably not a one that people are paying a ton of attention to because we only have about 800,000 people in our entire state of North Dakota. But we have a lot of passionate broadcasters on both the television and radio sides in all corners of the state that really do a great job and have been doing it for a number of years. So I feel very fortunate, very honored to be selected by my peers for this award.
Oh, you spoke earlier about, Carson Wentz, Trey Lance, obviously, to name a few names in some guys you've been able to cover with North Dakota State, obviously big names in hockey as well. Can you tell our listeners maybe about, a moment or a game that might have been your favorite event to cover this far?
Oh, there's been a lot of them. I mean, UND has had so many great hockey teams. I think that's one of those things up here where if you have a chance to go to the Ralph Engelstad Arena in Grand Forks, it is awesome. It is a great experience. And a lot of NHLers have come through there. So it's been fun to see that. But in terms of the moments that I've actually had a chance to be a part of, 2009 actually stands out to me at the Summit League tournament, Summit League basketball tournament. That was the first year that the Dakota schools were allowed to compete for a conference tournament championship and a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. And for North Dakota State, the team that I was covering a lot that year, for these seniors, these guys were redshirt fifth-year seniors. It was their only shot to go to the big dance. And they got all the way to the tournament championship and were one game away against Oakland, and we're trailing by 12 in the second half. And I was like, boy, I guess the storybook finish isn't going to have that happy ending. And then they rallied all the way back to win it with a shot in the final 3 seconds of the game by Ben Woodside to go to the NCAA tournament and win the conference championship. And then they get sent to the Metrodome in Minneapolis, which is my hometown and the stadium that I went to a ton growing up, to play in a first round tournament game against the University of Kansas, and they played exceptionally well. We're right in the game with 5 minutes to go, and I had a chance to cover that. Was just a couple of feet away from the court. So for me, that was a very special year and moment, just because I had a chance to cover an NCAA tournament for a program that was in its first year of eligibility, playing in my hometown, in a venue that I've seen so many memorable moments in the past, because I was there in 91 and 87 when the Twins were playing and winning World Series titles. So that was really cool and a memorable experience for me in '09.
Wow, what a story, and especially as you mentioned, just so personal to you as well. Really, really cool story there, Brian. Another question for you. So, taking you back a little bit to when you maybe first got into the industry to now, who have been some of your favorite sportscasters that you looked up to, and maybe some of your mentors along the way?
Well, I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of different people kind of help me and coach me. The first sports director I worked for, J.R. Havens, is now a news director out in Bismarck at the NBC affiliate. And I think he showed me the ropes of uh, how much it takes to do this job day in and day out, and how to manage your time, and how to cover the story, and how to do a better job of your storytelling, and some of those types of things. And then Lee Timmerman's a guy that was in Bismarck at a competing station when I was there at the time, that I had a chance to work with later in my career for over 10 years during North Dakota State football broadcasts. And he taught me a lot about preparation for a game and what you need to do and how you need to be prepared. So those guys obviously had a huge influence on me as I was coming into this. And I've had other coworkers here at Midco Sports that have taught me a lot of new things here over the last 6-7 years. I've had a chance to be a part of this really good company and sports network that we have. Just in terms of storytelling, how to produce good quality content, how to produce good quality games, and different ways of doing things, and trying to explore and get better and get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And those are things that I think you have to do as a broadcaster to keep yourself sharp, keep yourself growing, is just continuing to challenge yourself and do things in a different way than what you've done them before. That doesn't mean it's always going to look pretty on the air, but I do think you're better for it in the long run. And as I mentioned, growing up in the Twin Cities, the guys I watched, the Randy Shavers at KARE 11, Mark Rosen at WCCO, Joe Schmidt at KSTP. I mean, those were the guys that I watched on a regular basis, and was always so impressed with the way they went about their business as well. And they're the ones that I think watching is when I really wanted to get into it throughout high school. And when I went to the University of North Dakota, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I was very fortunate I got that opportunity.
Well, I'm curious too, Brian. We spoke a little bit, about this before starting our talk today. You have the snow out there, and even at this time of year, it'll pick up to, like you said, 2 feet. How do you prepare for something like that? And kind of goes into my next question too of, something like COVID-19 coming in and step in. How did those two, I guess, the snow and also COVID-19, how do those affect your work, and how did you, prepare for that?
Well, spring sports are one of those things here where it's, throw it into a bag. You're never sure how many games you're actually going to get, how many games from day to day. When you have a snowstorm like that we hit here in the middle part of April that have, 2 to 3 feet in the western part of the states, obviously you're not going to be playing spring sports outside for a while. So you have to find creative ways of still telling the stories and still trying to showcase those athletes when you're not able to get outside and really do that. The fortunate part here is, at least, is our two college teams for football both play indoors in domes. North Dakota plays at the Alaris Center in Grand Forks. North Dakota State plays at the Fargo Dome in Fargo. So we're always at least able to have good, solid weather inside the domes. We don't have to worry about it there. But yeah, that's one of those things here that fall and spring are so unpredictable with our weather that you really don't know from day to day what you're going to get. But that also creates some fun, memorable moments as well. Sometimes when you get into the high school football quarterfinals, semifinals, you're playing on a foot of snow on the field, and that creates a whole new dynamic for how the game is played. So sometimes it actually is fun to have that, and to make sure you have all 4 seasons and create some of that uncertainty going into it. But COVID-19 was obviously a very big struggle for everybody, and it made us all sit back and think, okay, how are we going to stay relevant during this time when nothing is going on? And I vividly remember it because I was broadcasting a Summit League tournament semifinal men's game in Sioux Falls between, I think, North Dakota State was playing Oral Roberts for a chance to play in the title game. And they won and had a chance to play North Dakota. So it was North Dakota State, the 300th meeting all time between those two programs for a spot in the big dance. I'm like, wow, what an awesome moment. We're here for this. They play the game. North Dakota State wins. They're going to the tournament. We're figuring out getting to be a 15 seed, 14 seed. And then really 3 days later, the NCAA tournament was completely gone. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, we're on this crazy train of covering this tournament and a memorable matchup between North Dakota and North Dakota State in a rivalry. And we don't even get a chance to play in an NCAA tournament for a lot of these guys. So it was, it was tough. And you're trying to think, what are we going to do? And a lot of obviously is what we're doing now. A lot of Zoom stories, a lot of trying to find other angles on things, a lot of film breakdown, look back at things, and a lot of just studying some games from the past, and whatever you could do to find content that was relative. But it challenged all of us to try to come up with new ways of how we do our job, and some of that we've been able to carry over even to to now, 2 years later, where we're finally getting out of this pandemic and getting a chance to get back to normal again, and we're finding different ways to do our jobs. And I think if there is any positive out of that, it was that it made us critically think about how we operate. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you take a little bit of a step back and realize this is the kind of work I'm used to, and now I'm not able to do that work. So, you kind of have to, really just be thankful for, the work you can do. And so, it's great that you pointed out like that. Well, the last question I want to ask you, Brian, and thank you so much for your time, is, what advice would you give to, some sportscasters just looking to get into the industry?
Well, I think the biggest thing is learn as much as you possibly can. Don't pigeonhole yourself into one specific thing that you're saying, I'm just going to do this. Learn how to be a good writer. That's really, really critical. No matter what you want to do in this industry, if you can become a really good writer, that's going to serve you very well down the road. I wish that's something I would have spent more time on, because that's something that I've always had to work on and continuing to develop throughout my entire career, was my writing. But I think it also is broadcasting as many different sports as you can be around. Learn as many different things about different sports as you can. You never know where that big opportunity is going to come. So you want to make sure you're versatile in what you broadcast and how you broadcast, stories that you tell and cover, different teams that you cover. Whatever the case may be, is just try to learn a little bit of everything. And even if you're not going to get paid in any sort of internship or whatever it is, anything that where you can get good quality experience, it will be beneficial for you down the road. So nothing is too small. No detail is too small to learn. And obviously picking the brain of others that are in this industry, people that you respect, will also serve you well in how they go about their business. How do they operate day to day? That'll also help you tremendously as you learn some of your time management skills, which to me was one of the biggest things I also had to learn coming out of college, was how to manage my time.
Our 2021 North Dakota Sportscaster of the Year, Brian Shawn. Brian, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you, Jake. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Hope to see you in Winston this summer.